There's a moment that countless men have experienced, yet very few ever talk about. You're walking through a cafe, waiting in line at a grocery store, standing in an elevator, or simply passing someone on the street. A younger woman glances in your direction. For a brief second, your eyes meet. She smiles, nothing dramatic, nothing exaggerated, just a calm, genuine smile. Almost instantly, your mind dismisses it. She was probably just being friendly. She smiles at everyone. I'm imagining things. Many men convince themselves that the moment had no meaning at all. They brush it aside before they even allow themselves to think about it. But why? The answer has less to do with the woman and far more to do with the beliefs many men have quietly carried for years. The story men have been told. As men grow older, society constantly sends subtle messages about aging. You're told that youth is everything. You're told that attention belongs to younger people. You're told that attraction fades with time. After hearing these ideas repeatedly, many men stop trusting their own instincts. Even when someone notices them, they automatically assume there must be another explanation. Instead of asking, what actually happened? They immediately decide, it couldn't possibly mean anything. That habit becomes automatic. Eventually, they stop seeing opportunities not because those opportunities disappeared, but because they've trained themselves not to notice them. Human behavior speaks quietly. Most people expect attraction to look dramatic. Movies show grand gestures. Television shows obvious flirting. Social media exaggerates every interaction. Real life is rarely like that. Human behavior usually communicates through small signals rather than loud declarations. Eye contact, body language, facial expressions, relaxed posture, small smiles. Tiny moments often reveal more than long conversations ever could. People constantly communicate without realizing they're doing it. The question isn't whether signals exist. The question is whether someone is paying enough attention to notice them. Why older men often miss these moments. Many younger men spend enormous amounts of energy trying to impress people. They carefully choose their clothes. They rehearse conversations. They constantly worry about saying the perfect thing. They monitor every reaction. Older men often become different. Life teaches lessons. Experience changes priorities. They stop chasing approval. They stop trying to win everyone's attention. They become more comfortable simply existing as themselves. Ironically, this natural confidence often becomes far more noticeable than any carefully rehearsed performance. Confidence isn't created by pretending to be important. Real confidence comes from no longer needing everyone else's validation. Presence is more powerful than performance. Think about the difference between two people entering a room. The first person immediately tries to impress everyone. They speak loudly. They interrupt conversations. They constantly seek attention. The second person simply walks in calmly. They don't rush. They don't force conversations. They don't try to become the center of attention. Yet somehow people still notice them. Why? Because genuine presence doesn't demand attention. It naturally attracts it. When someone appears relaxed, emotionally steady, and comfortable in their own skin, others instinctively feel it. That feeling can't be faked for very long. People recognize authenticity far faster than most realize. Emotional stability creates curiosity. Modern life is noisy. Everyone seems to be competing for attention. People constantly advertise themselves online. Many conversations become performances instead of genuine connections. In that environment, emotional steadiness becomes surprisingly rare. Someone who appears calm without seeming distant naturally stands out. Not because they're trying to, because they aren't trying. This difference is subtle but powerful. A relaxed person changes the emotional atmosphere around them. Other people often feel calmer simply standing nearby. Without saying a single word, they communicate something important. I'm comfortable with who I am. That message is incredibly difficult to fake. Why small smiles matter. A smile doesn't always mean romantic attraction. It also doesn't always mean simple politeness. Human interaction isn't limited to those two possibilities. Sometimes a smile simply acknowledges another person's presence. Sometimes it's curiosity. Sometimes it's appreciation. Sometimes it's comfort. Sometimes it's recognition. Many interactions exist somewhere between complete strangers and obvious flirting. Unfortunately, many men force every interaction into only two categories. She's interested, or she's just being nice. Reality is much more complicated. Most social interactions exist somewhere in the middle. The power of feeling safe. One quality many people overlook is emotional safety. This doesn't mean physical protection. It means something quieter. People naturally relax around individuals who don't create pressure. Someone who isn't trying to manipulate the conversation. Someone who doesn't immediately expect something in return. Someone who doesn't rush intimacy. Someone who simply allows interactions to unfold naturally. That feeling is surprisingly uncommon. When people experience it, they often respond with openness before they consciously understand why. A relaxed smile can sometimes be nothing more than the body's natural response to feeling comfortable. No complicated psychology. No hidden agenda. Just comfort. The silent question. Sometimes a smile isn't giving an answer. It's asking a question. Without speaking, people often become curious. Who is this person? Why do they seem so relaxed? Why don't they appear nervous? What makes them different? These questions rarely happen consciously. Instead, they're experienced emotionally. Humans constantly evaluate one another beneath the surface. We notice confidence. We notice anxiety. We notice insecurity. We notice calmness. Most of the time, we couldn't even explain exactly what we noticed. We simply feel it. That is why body language often speaks louder than words. The biggest mistake many men make. When they receive unexpected attention, many men immediately react. Some become overly excited. Some become uncomfortable. Some avoid eye contact. Some try too hard to continue the interaction. Others instantly convince themselves they imagined everything. Each of these reactions shifts attention away from the present moment. Instead of simply observing what happened, they begin analyzing every possible explanation. Sometimes there is no need to solve the interaction. Sometimes the healthiest response is simply acknowledging it. Smile back. Remain calm. Continue your day. Not every moment requires immediate action. Some moments are simply reminders that you are more noticeable than you think. And often, that realization alone is enough. One of the biggest transformations that happens as men grow older is almost invisible. It isn't physical. It isn't financial. It isn't even about experience alone. Something much deeper. Many men gradually stop fighting themselves. When you're younger, much of your energy is spent proving your worth. You want people to recognize your value. You want approval. You want success to arrive quickly. You constantly wonder what others think of you. Over time, however, life teaches lessons that no book ever could. You experience victories. You experience disappointments. You lose people. You rebuild. You make mistakes. Eventually, something changes inside. Instead of constantly asking, "How do I impress everyone?" you begin asking, "How do I stay true to myself?" That internal shift quietly changes how other people experience your presence. People feel inner stability. Many people believe confidence comes from speaking loudly. In reality, confidence often appears as the opposite. Someone who doesn't need to dominate conversations. Someone who isn't desperate to be noticed. Someone who listens more than they speak. Someone who doesn't rush to explain themselves. These qualities create a completely different emotional experience. People instinctively trust consistency. When someone appears emotionally balanced, others naturally feel more comfortable around them. This isn't about being mysterious. It's about being settled. There is a noticeable difference between someone who constantly seeks approval and someone who quietly accepts themselves. The difference between neediness and presence. Neediness creates pressure. Presence creates comfort. Think about conversations you've had with different people. Some conversations leave you feeling exhausted. The other person constantly demands attention. They interrupt. They seek validation. They try to impress you every minute. By the end, you're mentally tired. Then there are conversations with someone who speaks calmly. They listen carefully. They don't rush. They don't pressure you to think a certain way. Time feels slower. The conversation feels easier. That difference is emotional presence. People remember how you make them feel far longer than they remember the exact words you used. Why experience changes your energy? Experience doesn't simply increase knowledge. It changes perspective. When you've lived through enough challenges, you begin recognizing patterns. You realize that many problems eventually solve themselves. You stop reacting emotionally to every small inconvenience. You become more patient. You stop trying to control everything. That calmness becomes visible, not because you announce it, because it naturally influences your behavior. You move differently. You speak differently. You respond differently. Others notice those changes even if they can't explain exactly why. Curiosity often comes before attraction. Many people assume attraction happens instantly. Sometimes it does. But many meaningful connections begin with curiosity. Someone notices another person's calmness, their confidence, their composure, their emotional balance. Before attraction develops, curiosity often appears first. Who is this person? Why do they seem different? Why do I feel comfortable around them? These questions usually happen beneath conscious awareness. Instead of thinking those words directly, people simply feel drawn toward understanding someone better. That curiosity often begins with something as simple as eye contact and a smile. The value of emotional boundaries. One characteristic emotionally mature people often share is healthy boundaries. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about respecting yourself. Someone with healthy boundaries doesn't reveal everything immediately. They don't rush emotional intimacy. They don't confuse attention with commitment. They don't expect strangers to instantly understand them. Instead, they allow trust to develop naturally over time. Ironically, this approach often creates stronger relationships. People tend to appreciate those who respect both themselves and others. Healthy boundaries communicate emotional security. They quietly say, "I'm comfortable getting to know you, but I'm not trying to force anything." That attitude removes unnecessary pressure from social interactions. Why rushing often destroys good moments. Imagine meeting someone interesting. Instead of enjoying the conversation, one person immediately starts planning the future. They overthink every sentence. They wonder whether the interaction means something serious. They begin chasing certainty. In doing so, they lose the present moment. Many potentially meaningful connections disappear because people become obsessed with defining them too quickly. Not every interaction needs immediate answers. Some moments simply deserve appreciation. Allowing conversations to unfold naturally often creates stronger connections than forcing them. Patience communicates confidence. Urgency often communicates insecurity. Quiet men are frequently misunderstood. Society often rewards loud personalities. Confident people are frequently imagined as outgoing, charismatic, and highly expressive. But confidence has many forms. Some confident individuals are energetic. Others are incredibly quiet. A man who doesn't constantly seek attention may appear reserved. Yet beneath that quietness can exist enormous emotional strength. He doesn't need to dominate conversations. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't compete with everyone around him. He's simply comfortable observing before speaking. People often underestimate this type of confidence. Eventually, however, they begin noticing something unusual. The quiet person often becomes the one everyone respects. Not because he demanded respect, because his behavior consistently earned it. Why self-acceptance changes everything. One of the greatest freedoms in life arrives when you stop trying to become someone else. Many people spend years pretending to be tougher, pretending to be wealthier, pretending to be happier, pretending to fit expectations. Eventually, genuine confidence replaces performance. You stop comparing yourself with everyone else. You stop chasing impossible standards. You become more comfortable with your own strengths and weaknesses. That authenticity becomes visible. People naturally trust authenticity because it feels emotionally safe. Someone who accepts themselves rarely needs to convince others of their value. Their behavior speaks for itself. Presence doesn't need validation. There is an important difference between wanting attention and appreciating attention. One comes from insecurity. The other comes from self-respect. When someone smiles at you, you don't need to immediately assign meaning. You don't need to imagine an entire future. You don't need to dismiss it either. Simply acknowledge the moment. Return the smile if it feels natural. Remain relaxed. Continue living your life. This approach removes unnecessary emotional pressure. It allows interactions to remain genuine, rather than becoming performances. Ironically, people are often drawn toward those who seem least interested in proving themselves. Not because they're playing games, because they genuinely don't need constant reassurance. That quiet confidence becomes one of the most attractive qualities anyone can possess. The most powerful realization many men eventually reach has nothing to do with appearance. It isn't about having more money. It isn't about wearing expensive clothes. It isn't about saying the perfect words. It is understanding that your presence speaks long before your voice does. Long before anyone hears you talk, people notice your posture, your pace, your facial expression, your emotional energy. Whether you appear comfortable in your own skin, these quiet signals shape first impressions far more than most people realize. When someone feels emotionally grounded, they naturally influence the atmosphere around them, not by demanding attention, simply by existing with confidence. The strength of calmness. Modern life rewards speed. People rush everywhere. They check their phones every few minutes. They interrupt silence with constant noise. Many conversations feel like competitions rather than genuine exchanges. In such an environment, calmness becomes incredibly noticeable. A person who isn't in a hurry creates a different emotional experience. They listen carefully. They answer thoughtfully. They remain patient. Instead of reacting instantly, they respond with intention. Others often feel more relaxed simply because someone nearby isn't contributing to the chaos. Calmness spreads. Just like anxiety spreads, people naturally mirror emotional states without realizing it. Silence is not weakness. Many people mistake silence for insecurity, but silence can also represent confidence. Someone who constantly talks may actually be trying to prove themselves. Someone who is comfortable with occasional silence usually doesn't feel that pressure. They don't need to fill every gap. They don't need to impress everyone in the room. They understand that thoughtful words carry more weight than endless conversation. Silence creates space. Space allows people to think. It allows curiosity to develop. It allows genuine connection to happen naturally. Not every meaningful moment requires explanation. Sometimes quiet understanding says more than long speeches ever could. Why authenticity always wins. Pretending is exhausting. Trying to become someone you're not requires constant effort. Eventually people notice. Authenticity feels different. Authentic people admit when they don't know something. They acknowledge mistakes. They stay consistent regardless of who is watching. Their personality doesn't dramatically change depending on the audience. That consistency builds trust. Trust is one of the strongest foundations of every meaningful relationship. People don't expect perfection. They expect honesty. When someone behaves the same way in public and in private, others naturally feel more comfortable around them. Authenticity removes uncertainty. It creates emotional stability. Attention doesn't need to become expectation. One brief smile, one friendly conversation, one pleasant interaction. None of these automatically become promises. One of the healthiest habits anyone can develop is allowing positive moments to remain exactly what they are. A pleasant interaction. Nothing more. Nothing less. Many people immediately begin creating stories inside their minds. Does this mean something? Will I see this person again? Should I do something? Sometimes those questions only create unnecessary pressure. Instead, appreciate the moment. Enjoy it. Learn from it. Then continue living your life. When expectations disappear, genuine confidence grows. Emotional maturity changes relationships. Emotional maturity isn't about hiding feelings. It's about managing them wisely. It means understanding that not every emotion deserves immediate action. You can feel excitement without becoming impulsive. You can feel disappointment without becoming bitter. You can feel attraction without becoming desperate. That emotional balance makes relationships healthier. Instead of chasing certainty, emotionally mature people allow trust to develop naturally. They understand that strong relationships are built over time. Respect comes first. Trust follows. Everything else grows from those foundations. Stop looking for constant validation. One of the greatest burdens many people carry is the need for constant reassurance. They want everyone to approve of them. They need compliments to feel valuable. They depend on outside opinions to define their confidence. True confidence works differently. Comes from within. Compliments become enjoyable rather than necessary. Attention becomes appreciated rather than expected. Criticism becomes information rather than personal defeat. When your self-worth no longer depends on every interaction, you become emotionally free. Ironically, this freedom often makes you even more attractive to others. People naturally respect individuals who value themselves without becoming arrogant. Confidence is quiet. Hollywood often portrays confidence as dramatic. Reality is usually much simpler. Confidence is showing up without pretending. Confidence is staying respectful without seeking approval. Confidence is remaining calm under pressure. Confidence is listening more than speaking. Confidence is treating others with kindness while maintaining healthy boundaries. These qualities rarely attract immediate headlines, but they consistently earn long-term respect. The strongest people in the room are often the least interested in proving they're strong. Their actions speak louder than their words ever could. Your presence leaves an impression. Whether you realize it or not, every interaction leaves an impression. Not because of perfect conversations, because of emotional experiences. People remember how someone made them feel. Did they feel respected? Did they feel comfortable? Did they feel heard? Did they feel judged? Did they feel pressured? These emotional memories remain long after specific words are forgotten. That is why developing character matters more than developing clever lines. Character creates consistency. Consistency creates trust. Trust creates meaningful connections. A different way to see yourself. Many men spend years believing they have become invisible. Often that isn't true. What has changed is not their visibility but their perspective. They've become so accustomed to dismissing themselves that they overlook genuine moments of connection. The goal isn't to assume every smile carries hidden meaning, nor is it to dismiss every interaction as meaningless. The healthiest approach lies somewhere in the middle. Observe, appreciate, respond naturally, then continue living with confidence. Real self-worth doesn't depend on being noticed. It comes from knowing your own value regardless of who is watching. And when that inner confidence becomes genuine, it quietly influences every conversation, every interaction, and every relationship. You no longer feel the need to force outcomes. You stop chasing approval. You stop questioning your place in the world. Instead, you move through life with calmness, authenticity, and quiet strength. Ironically, that is often when people begin noticing you the most. Because true confidence doesn't demand attention. It earns respect naturally.